We have been talking a lot about sardine fasts and water fasts lately, and we hear you viewers, some of you are just not ready for that. But some of you might have been experiencing some of the things on your carnivore or mostly meat keto diet that could be a little bit alarming or disturbing, and that is a continuous raise in blood glucose and A1C numbers. We both saw that. We were consistently in the hundreds with our fasting blood sugar, and it didn't used to be that way. So we went on a mission to try to figure out what we could do around this. And we've got good news for those of you who are not interested in the sardines or the water fasting. We cracked part of the code before we started all this crazy fasting, and we are going to share that with you in this video. Another question we get frequently is, all right, so you cracked the code. What exactly are you eating and when are you eating during the day? So we're going to do that step by step.
Let's get started.
I usually break my fast at about 8 to 8:30 in the morning, and that gives me roughly, I believe, a 16-hour fast. I generally have two breakfasts that I sort of play on repeat. The first is I have about a 12-ounce strip steak that I fry in beef tallow. I have 165 grams of El Reuteri yogurt. It also includes Subtilis and Gaceri, that's it, yes. So I have about a serving of yogurt, as well as about 2 tablespoons or so of sauerkraut right there. And that's one of my breakfasts that I have. And should I go into my alternate breakfast here?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So that's one. Or what I've been having lately is, this is an omelet. It is a cheese and chicken omelet. And it is made with 2 eggs and 2 yolks for that omelet there. So I'll have that with a little bit of sour cream on top as well. I have about 75 to 80 grams of chicken inside and about 40 grams of cheese. And those are my 2 basic breakfasts right there. I also have the yogurt too. Yogurt's every day.
Okay.
Yes.
So my question is this enough fat?
Is that enough fat? Well, shall we take a look at both of my breakfasts?
Yeah, let's do that.
So looking at the breakdown in percentages, my steak is 71% fat. My kraut is 4% fat. My yogurt is 79% fat. Now, yogurt's a little tricky. They say that some of the carbs are fermented and some of the dairy proteins, etc. I just did a straight, we use half and half, so it's just straight half and half here. I didn't account for anything that was fermented away. So yogurt is 79% fat. This is fat. And my omelet is 67% fat. And that does include the sour cream. Now let's look at protein. Steak is 29% protein. The kraut is 17% protein. The yogurt is 10% protein. And the omelet is 31% protein. And then finally, let's look at carbs. This is 0 carbs in the steak. Ooh, that's a nice 0. The kraut is big, right? This is 79% carbs. But remember, I'm just eating 2 tablespoons, so not a really big deal. The yogurt is 10% carbs. And the omelet is 2% carbs. So that's the breakdown. I'm still, if you add it all up, I'm still in a pretty good macro here, even with the higher protein omelet.
Okay, so I start my day with steak, a New York strip. It's 14 to 16 ounces, and I don't like it without some help, though. So I will generally have it with a couple of tablespoons of sauerkraut and a couple of tablespoons of kimchi, which is a great combination. But this is not enough fat, so I up the fat with some egg yolks, and depending on how hungry I am, I will usually have about 4 of them. And then more recently, I have been having an avocado with it, which is obviously not carnivore, but there's a lot of fat in an avocado. And I wanted the potassium because I did not think I was getting enough. And then, of course, I am having my coffee with that breakfast.
I usually eat lunch at about 2 p.m. and I have a really easy lunch these days. On the days that I have a steak, I'm usually pretty satiated still. My hunger's not too high, so I have a brat. And if I've had the omelet, I might be a little hungrier and I'll have 2 brats. What we've discovered is that pretty much stacking my protein and carbs earlier in the day are what's great. I did that with breakfast, so this is just a little bit of almost a snack-sized meal. For my brats, it is 78% fat, 20% protein, and 2% carb.
So I tend to eat around noon, but sometimes as late as 1 p.m. Just depends on what I'm doing and how hungry I'm getting. And I will have sardines for lunch, 1 tin. But more recently, if I'm going to have sardines, I will add butter because my sardines come in water. And so the macros on sardines by themselves isn't that great. Let's take a look at what that looks like. The way that I get them are 38% fat, 62% protein. That's not going to cut it. So that's why I bring in the 1.5 tablespoons of butter, which is 100% fat. And it improves this ratio dramatically. Some days I might be a little bit hungrier or I'm just not up for some sardines. And so in those days, I will have a carnivore bar. And because the macros of this are still not quite right, I will add a little bit of fat in the form of butter. Now, when I eat the butter with the sardines or with the carnivore bar, I don't spread the butter on the carnivore. I don't go like that. I just eat it. I just cut it and eat it like fudge. The carnivore bar is a really nice pemmican snack. If you're not familiar with it, it's dried beef and it's got tallow in it for the fat. And these things in this packaging, they say will last for, 20 years or something like that. I mean, it's when you take it out, has a little grease to it. The ones that I've been eating are honey salted. So there is some carbs in the form of honey in it. The honey is not super sweet. It doesn't make it taste like a treat. It just kind of cuts the tallow bit a little bit. If I was more worried about my carb intake, I would use the unsweetened version of this. But so far, this has worked when combined with the fat. And if you're interested in the carnivore bar, you can get 10% off your first order using our code JJ and Eric when you check out. Link in the description.
So what I would say is dinner, the final eating episode of the day, I like to keep it very fat focused, and we will talk about that a little bit in the conclusion. But I have basically 2 options that I do. The first one, I know it's hard to tell what that is. I make a fat bomb using 5 ounces of cream cheese, teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 ounces of butter and 1 ounce of MCT oil. And I whip it up and I have about a 50-gram serving. So that whole thing is not my serving. I could eat that throughout several days, but a 50-gram serving of my cream cheese fat bomb. Or alternately, I will have salami and butter, and that's usually 3 thin slices of hard salami with probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter added on. And I do put this in the salami, fold it up, and eat it. It makes the butter go down a little bit better for me. So those are my 2 options for that final fatty food episode. And let's take a look at how those break down. Okay, my cream cheese bomb comes in at about 94% fat, 3% protein, and 3% carbs. And my salami and butter comes in at 93% fat, 7% protein, and 0 carbs.
So I generally eat my dinner around 4 o'clock, try to be done by 5 o'clock. And it's very simple. I air fry up 3 strips of bacon, and then I pan fry 6 egg yolks in some tallow. These are cooked very, very lightly to keep them runny. And then I put those on the plate, cut them up, and then I put the bacon on the plate, cut it up, mix it all together, and then I put a little bit of shredded cheese on it and eat it, which is what you do with a meal. 88% fat, 12% protein, or 82-17, 80% fat, 20% protein, which this is slightly inaccurate because we know there's a little bit of carbs in there, but it's close enough. So my dinner works out to be 84% fat, 16% protein.
So let's look at how this day wraps up then. I have an average of my 2 days, 155 grams of fat, which is 77% of my calories from fat, 92 grams of protein at 21%, and 8.5 grams of carbs, which is 2%. Now, I did want to point out that I have approximately 99 pounds of lean mass. So my protein requirements should be around that 99. So on average, I'm a little bit low, but the steak day, I'm having 102 grams of protein. On chicken day, it's where I'm falling short with about 81 grams of protein. So if I up my chicken in my omelet, doubled it about, I would hit that goal every single day. And then for those of you who want to know, am I overeating? Am I undereating? It's adding up to about 1,800 calories. So I think I'm right in the pocket there.
So my days vary depending on whether I'm having sardines for lunch or a carnivore bar for lunch. Honestly, some days I might not even have any lunch. So we're just going to look at the 2 cases. So the we'll call it the sardine lunch, 73% of calories from fat and 26% from protein. Carnivore bar lunch day, it's long, is 75% protein, 24% fat. Obviously, there's leftover here for carbs. So there's like 1% carbs. That might be a little bit light, but the kcals here are about 2,400, and over here 2,200, and I'm getting 148 grams and 151 grams of protein, and that's right in the pocket for what my lean mass is right now. Trying to get 1 gram per pound of lean body mass. So those are the days, the ways that we're being able to stay keto. And obviously, if my ketones start going down, then I have to start looking at how to exchange some of these grams of protein for a little bit more fat, or alternatively, taking out the avocado, or making sure the carnivore bar isn't in there to take the honey out of it.
So now you have seen the magic of how we lowered our blood glucose, our fasting blood glucose in the morning. And again, we were consistently in the hundreds, and now when we wake up, consistently in the 80s.
Yep,
even
that's
without,
true.
Yeah, even without the sardine fasting and the water fasting. So that was good news.
And then the sardine and water fasting has just kickstarted and elevated those ketones to the level we wanted to see.
Absolutely. The things that we do to wake up with that lowered blood glucose. And it really boils down to a few basic things that we demonstrated. Number one is eat that protein and your carbs early in the day. Take advantage of the fact that you are in that, the dawn effect with your blood glucose. And also you're working with cortisol. So eat that protein early in the day. Plus, that gives your body a chance to use any gluconeogenesis that might happen, because that's really what we found was happening with us, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. And then another thing is to close the day with a high fat, small volume meal.
And what that means is low protein.
Low protein. The mistake we made, and we've seen other people make, is that we went high fat expecting to see better numbers, but we were adding fat to the protein we were already eating. And so we've made that exchange Eric sort of talked about near the end. We've exchanged some of our protein for fat. So it's not an addition, it's an exchange.
And part of the key that makes this work is we stop eating early.
That's, yes, number 3.
So that high fat, low protein meal happens at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at the latest. And so the idea is that then you don't eat and you get all the night's sleep into the next morning is a long fast window.
Yes.
And because we're not adding much protein, there isn't really much substrate for gluconeogenesis, which kind of tilts the liver toward ketosis when it needs to produce some energy. Now, you may say, Eric, gluconeogenesis is demand-driven, not supply-driven. And I will say again that an oversupply of protein in us, 3 years carnivore, created a demand for more gluconeogenesis for some reason. But you certainly can't do the gluconeogenesis if you don't supply the substrate, and then the liver has no choice but to go to ketosis.
Yeah. So far we have seen great benefits doing that strategy. And some of our viewers have also mentioned that they have seen results from adopting that as well. So we're not doctors, we're not health professionals. We're just sharing what we've seen has worked for us.
And if you want to take it to the next level, then think about adding the 72-hour Sardine fast, making sure that it's a high-fat fast, and then you will see your glucose drop and your ketones go up.
But can we just skip to a water fast?
You could, but depending on your metabolic situation, it may not work as well, ironically.
No. Worked for me, did not work for you.
No.
So we hope this has provided some value to you, that we've answered some of your questions about exactly what we eat and when.
Please give us a like and a subscribe, and stay every day stronger,
every day more blessed.